Hello everyone, it's Ben Palazak with Key Realty. Today I want to talk about the current state of the housing market. I know a lot of people have questions, especially home buyers. Um, we had a couple really aggressive years with home prices. Everything's been going up, and I hear a lot of people talking about, maybe I should wait, um, till house prices start to go down a little bit. The house prices are too high. I even hear people start to mention again that we might be heading for a recession, a housing market crash, kind of like what we've seen in 2008. I just want to go through some data with you, and then hopefully this will help you make more of an educated decision. I know it's tough out there. It's really tough for home buyers. Um, this would probably be some good cues in here for sellers too, if to kind of gauge whether it's a good time to sell. Maybe you have multiple properties. Maybe you're thinking about you know downsizing some of the houses that you do own. But where are we at in the market right now? We gauge this by month supply of inventory. If you haven't heard of this before, I'm not going to get super in depth with it, but I'm just going to kind of briefly explain. Month supply of inventory would be if you have all the houses on the MLS currently and you stopped adding new inventory, how long would it take to run out of the houses that we have available right now? So right now we're at about 0.4 months of inventory. It would take less than half a month and all the inventory would be gone if there was no new listings added. You can kind of look at this chart here. Anything below 4 months of inventory is considered a seller's market. That 1 to 2 months of inventory, you're going to see double-digit appreciation on houses. 5, 6 months of inventory is a normal to balanced market. And then everything 7 months of inventory and beyond is going to be considered a buyer's market. You can see 9+ months of inventory, you're going to see double-digit depreciation. That's kind of what we witnessed in 2008. There were some other things going on in 2008 besides the excess of inventory. Obviously, we had some lending issues and some other issues. But this is a historical chart, months of inventory going back to 2003. You can see that we actually, in West Michigan, we actually entered a buyer's market in 2005. We had 8 months of inventory, and then it kind of peaked at 13.3 in 2008. But a lot of people remember it's kind of an overnight thing. There definitely was some corruption. Everything was kind of exposed overnight, and there was some panic. But the buildup of inventory happened over a long period of time. It didn't happen overnight. It wasn't we turned on the news in 2008 and then the housing market crashed. We're actually well into a buyer's market. 13.3 months of inventory is a lot of inventory to have. We've been losing those months of inventory ever since then. 2021 we had 0.6 months of inventory. Like I said previously, now we're at 0.4. There's spots in Grand Rapids right now, where it's even below that 0.3. But if we're going to see a crash or a correction, we're going to have to see these numbers go up. I mean, you can't have a market correction. The house prices are not going to fall unless the inventory starts to go up. And there's some things that we're doing to kind of control that. One of the big things you probably hear everyone talking about right now is interest rates. We held interest rates low for a long time, because of COVID or coming out of the 2008 recession, try to stimulate the economy a little bit. Now we have a problem with inflation. Inflation's kind of running away from us. The rates are going to go up. I mean, this year, definitely we'll be kind of wondering when it's going to happen. They're definitely going to start to go up this year. How high they're going to go, we don't really know, and how long of a time period where they're going to continually slowly raise interest rates, we don't really know that either. But inflation's a big issue. Everyone's kind of been talking about it. The annual inflation rate in the U.S. accelerated to 7% the last month of 2021. It's been a fresh high since 1982. Inflationary pressures are likely to last well into the middle of 2022, and Fed Chair Powell recently pledged to do what's necessary to contain the inflation surge, including increasing interest rates. So if you look at this historical chart, back to the 1970s, the average interest rate, the average long-term interest rate of a 30-year fixed rate mortgage in the United States is 7.8%. So even though we're creeping back into the fours here, it's still record. I mean, it's still record low. It's really low interest rates. That's kind of why we've been seeing like this surge, especially the last couple months of people trying to get in, trying to get houses. It's been red hot. People are trying to lock in those rates before they start creeping up. So I don't think we're going to get. I don't think we're going to get just like the inventory. The rates aren't going to just spike high overnight. I mean, that would be like catastrophic to the economy. But in the last slide, we talked about how the inflation rate is comparable to the 1980s. If you look at what the 30-year fixed rate mortgage rate, average interest rate was in the 1980s, I mean, you could see it peaked like at 18-something% interest rate. When my parents bought their first house in the 1980s, our interest rate was 14.4%. I just can't even imagine it now. It just seems crazy to think about right now. So interest rates matter. I don't think we're going to go up to 7.8% anytime soon, but this is the average house price in the greater Grand Rapids area of about $300,000. I'm running the numbers here at 20% down. So if you look at the monthly mortgage payment on the left-hand side at 3.65% interest, and then the monthly mortgage payment on the right-hand side at 7.8% interest, it changes your monthly mortgage payment by like 40%. I mean, the changes in interest rates really affect your buying power. What you'll be pre-approved, what you can afford to pay every month. Why do we have such low inventory? Why it seems like we would just build more houses. There's the demand. We would just build, and then everything would just kind of level back out. Prices would stabilize. If you look at the little graph on the left-hand side, we've just been building less. It's hard. We had kind of a decade where we didn't really build a lot of houses. You could see throughout the decades, 25 million houses built, 26, 27 million. And then from 2010, to 2020, and there's only 5.8 million houses built. Obviously, in 2020, we weren't building a lot of houses. People were staying home, staying safe. We, kind of shut down a lot of that building during that time. And, we're trying to catch up. We're trying to build more houses, but it's expensive. I mean, the cost of new builds are expensive. The cost of labor is going up. We're seeing these record high inflation numbers. We're seeing supply issues. I didn't really put it in the graph here, but I was just kind of looking up, some things. The price has been kind of bouncing around, but a 2x4, 8-foot 2x4 was like $2 pre-COVID. I just looked up the other day, $7.09 for a 2x4. 7/16 4x8 sheet of OSB. Is like $10 pre-COVID, $40.49 right now. I mean, we're not gonna build affordable housing. The houses that are being built are expensive, and that's going to reflect on the existing inventory as well, because it's a comparable for existing inventory. People are deciding whether they want to buy a new house or buy an existing house. Those prices kind of bleed into the rest of the market. The beginning of COVID kind of made me nervous because a lot of people weren't paying their mortgages, and I was expecting like a wave of foreclosures. We kind of had that flashback of 2008. I didn't really know how it was going to pan out. If you look, I mean, look up some of the, I don't have them right in front of me, but if you look up some of the stats of, you know, nationwide, how many people were not paying their mortgage, you know, second, third quarter of 2020, it was kind of mind blowing. I mean, there was like millions and millions of people not paying their mortgage. And I didn't know where the chips were going to land at the end of this and if there was going to be a wave of people that could not pay. Obviously, that would add inventory. And that could have some sort of correction in home prices if you see a sudden surge of foreclosures come on the market or people selling just because they had to get out of it because they could not pay. But it didn't really happen. I mean, I look at the foreclosure lists, you know, a couple times a week. They're not coming in, and the banks didn't want it. The government didn't want it. We didn't want to go back to that 2008 scenario where we're flooded. It cost the banks a lot of money to deal with foreclosures. So the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau did a lot. They've really tried hard to give borrowers some options. They came up with a 30-year loan modification. They lowered the interest rates. They stretched the mortgage out for 40 years. You know, a lot of these people, the payments, their monthly mortgage payments are lower now than what they were pre-COVID. So, I mean, they're finding a way for people. They're finding a way for people to stay in their houses and not sell or go into foreclosure. A lot of people refinance even if they weren't in some sort of hardship, just because the interest rates were so low, and you know, kind of got their monthly payments lower. And I think having a low mortgage payment, you know, once if you're, you know, in the 5% or 6%, and then you refinance and you're at 2.7% or 3%, they kind of lose the motivation to sell their house at that point. I think that's going to cause some sort of bottleneck in the future too. Is that these people are just going to hold on to these really great rates, and then if they have to sell in the future and rebuy, you know, they're going to have to rebuy and get a loan for like a higher interest rate. So I don't really know how we're going to get more inventory. That's the big thing. That's what's going to change the you know, the prices. Obviously, if we have an excess of inventory, the prices are going to go down. But just another graph here. I mean, people are paying their mortgage payment. The left side is 30 to 90 days delinquent. The right side is 90 days or more delinquent. I mean, people are not having a problem paying their mortgage. I mean, they're finding a way. Labor force is doing really well, and it seems like the people are getting paid a little bit more or negotiating their wages a little bit more. They have a little bit more leverage with their employer now than they did pre-COVID. And, you know, you probably drive around and see all the now hiring signs. So, yeah, people are making their mortgage payment. We're not seeing foreclosures. So the question is really to ask are how high are interest rates going to go? How high are buyers willing to pay for a house? There's got to be some sort of ceiling where, I mean, people just can't pay anymore. Will inflation continue to rise? You know, houses are tied to inflation. I mean, if you look at cost of material, you look at cost of, you know, goods and services. If we're seeing, you know, 7, 8, 9% inflation every year, the cost of the houses are going to go up with that inflation. So how is this going to affect home buyers? If interest rates are getting high, if inflation is high, do you think that house prices are going to be cheaper if you wait 6 months or if you wait a year? How is this going to affect home values and sellers? Obviously, if interest rates get too high and people just can't make the monthly payments, you know, we might see houses start to, you know, the prices start to go down. So I guess the big question, you know, that I think about is that, you know, these people with these low interest rates, I don't think they're going to sell. I don't think that they're going to get out of their house. I think a lot of the value of home buying right now is just locking in that rate, think a lot of people are kind of realizing that. I mean, the cost of the money right now is cheap, and we know that the cost of the money in the future is going to be more expensive. Well, this video has been 15 minutes long. I appreciate you if you stayed with me until the end. I kind of ramble on a little bit. Hope this was helpful for some people. If you have a topic you want me to talk into or kind of do a deep dive on and present, I would love to hear what people are interested in or they want to know about. Till next time, appreciate you guys. Stay safe, stay sane out there. Talk to you soon.